Hello, this is Josh Arnett, doing my video for the Unit 4 lesson plan, which in my case is Activity 18.1, about one unit, where students will pick a unit of measurement with which to measure various objects. Now, my science integration standard is ask questions, make observation, gather information about a situation people want to change, define a simple problem that can be solved through the development of a new or improved object or tool. Put in layman's terms, this lesson is about the students creating a tool and using that tool to measure various objects around the classroom. Now, I will be using this tool for my demonstration. This is a 2" by 2" square. However, one of my objectives for this lesson is to use a non-standard unit. So students are going to get probably some heavier paper than this and just cut a square or more likely a rectangle, which will be helpful with a later part of the lesson. So they'll take this tool and they'll just use it to measure just objects around the classroom. I'm going to use some objects here in my basement. We're going to start with this this hymn book that I have. So they can take the paper, line it up 1, and then we will flip it 2, 3. So it is 3 squares long and about 2 squares wide. So they would write down 3 by 2 if they were using this particular tool. Now, let's say that they were using something more like this. This is a 2" by 1" rectangle. And they go and they measure and they get 1, 2, 3, and then they try and flip it on the short edge. They're going to get 2, 3, 4. So one of the things that this lesson will address is making sure that their unit is constant. You know, they might say, oh, it's 3 rectangles by 4 rectangles, but that's not really true because we're using a different unit of measurement. So a helpful tool would be to make sure that they have drastically different sizes of their shapes so that they can very easily tell which one is the long one and which one is the short one. This will also be emphasized because each student is making their own tool. No tool is going to be exactly the same size, so they can compare both of them measuring the same object with a different tool with a different measurement length. And comparing how the size of their tool affects the measurements that they get. For reteaching, if they just need help to make the tool, you could demonstrate how to use scissors, remind them that it doesn't matter how big it is. And then if they forget how to measure, you can demonstrate that flip I did, and it'd be a lot easier with heavier paper. For enrichment, they're going to find objects that don't fit perfectly into their measurement tool. For example, if you take this dice box right here, I'm going to put that on the table, you can measure, you can see that that is almost perfectly 1 square tall, but it is sort of 3/4 squares wide. So we can integrate that with estimation, being able to say, oh, that's about 3/4 of a square. That would also be a good way to introduce the concept of fractions if they need that. They may also run into very irregular shapes that cannot be measured easily. So if you look at this My Little Pony tin here, how would I measure an irregular shape with this square? Well, it wouldn't really work. So you could talk about using other tools such as a measuring tape that are more flexible to measure the perimeter, or measuring from the bottom to the top, which is I don't know, 2.75 of my squares, roughly. Another one would be to look at, say, what if I wanted to measure how wide this table is? Well, that's going to be several squares. This particular tool is not very helpful, and if we were to measure, say, from one end of my basement all the way to the other, well, that's going to be very impractical with this particular tool. So also talk about the limits of different tools and why it's important to have a variety at your disposal. So that is my video demonstration. Hope you enjoyed it.